Welcome back to Tutorial Tidbits. I'm Elizabeth St. Hilaire, and this is a very special tidbit coming to you all the way from Tuscany. I've been working on my watercolor sketching for the past 2 weeks because my next workshop, which starts on Sunday, is watercolor sketchbook Bella Botanicals here in Italy. So I've made 24 watercolor sketches in the last 2 weeks. So I guess you would say I'm well practiced. I'm going to share one of those lessons with you as a special tidbit this week. And I want to let you know that next year in June, I'll be back here in Tuscany teaching these types of watercolor sketchbook lessons. So if you like this lesson and you like the look of Italy, you might want to join me next June. So I also want to let you know that all the supplies that I use in this video are in the upper right-hand corner on my Amazon shopping list. My Amazon shopping list is divided by categories, and when you go there, you'll see one that's called watercolor. Now, when you go to that shopping list, look at the talk bubbles in the upper right-hand corner of all the supplies because I put comments there as to why I have chosen them for the list and what I like about them. So it's a wealth of information and a lot of supplies all in one place. So whether you're on the go with water-filled brushes or you're traveling but painting, sitting at your kitchen table with the travel brushes that go into the, there are a lot of motorcycles here. The travel brushes that go right into the handle. There's 2 different kinds of brushes that I really love, and the paper and the paints and everything else is there. So without further ado, let's go check it out. Okay, so for today's watercolor lesson, I'm gonna do something fairly simple. When I'm on the go, I work with, and next week with my students, when we do some sketching on outside, like at Pushina Flowers, I would work with these water brushes. They have water in the barrel, then you don't need to bring a cup of water, and you just squeeze them and the water comes through them, and you use the water like that. You can squeeze the water through them to clean them, and you can squeeze the water through them to moisten your paints. But because I'm here in the studio, I'm using my travel set of brushes that I brought with me. They come in this leather sort of pocket travel case, which is really nice. And they're travel because the tips are protected by going inside of the handle. So that's really great because then in your luggage, in your bag, your tips are never gonna get damaged because they have the metal top, and that becomes a long handle brush. And it's 3 sizes of rounds, which are the most common tips of brush that I use in watercolor. And it's a 12, which is the big one, an 8, which is the middle one, and a 4, which is the small one. So these are really all you need. And then I've got my travel pan of Golden QOR watercolors, Golden's Core, my mechanical pencil, and at the moment I cannot seem to locate my kneaded rubber eraser. Oh, look, there's the eraser. Fantastico. All right, so the cookies I'm gonna definitely be busting out of my waistband on the way home from this month in Italy. And the tea will help keep me going. Okay, so what I'm gonna draw is a simple olive branch. There are olives here, but it's been so dry and so little water that the olives are really tiny, tiny, tiny. They haven't gotten very big on the trees. So I'm gonna do the stem from the top right to the top left to the lower right so I can get a long length on this. And I'm keeping in mind what I know about olives. The leaves are long and thin. I'll have another olive here. And one overlapping that here. Then I'll bring my stem down. And another olive here. And one behind that one. And I feel like I don't want it to be crashing into this side with all this open area up here. So compositionally, I'm gonna add another leaf up here so it's not so empty at the top. And that's a little lonely, so let's add another one here. Now we've got, compositionally, we have some extra weight balance up here, and I'll extend the stem a little bit. And I still would like to get this a little less close to the edge So let's make that a little smaller. There. So now when I trace the pencil lines, again, I'm gonna re-evaluate my drawing and make sure that everything that I've drawn is how I want it. So I'll come in here and again, I'm sorry about the light. I wish I had brought video lights with me, but my luggage was already so full. Okay, so we'll start here. I bought a pad of Arches hot press watercolor paper, and these are half sheets out of that pad. I believe the pad was 10 by 14. It's on my Amazon list, but the paper, this is really nice paper. I used Arches paper when I was in college, always to draw on. But the paper that is just a wee bit nicer is the Fabriano paper. The Fabriano watercolor paper, hot press, so it has a smooth surface, has just a tad nicer of a surface than this. It's not a lot noticeable, but just saying. And then this leaf is behind that olive. And then behind. And then this leaf. So I'm gonna give some of them a line down the middle because that's how the olive leaves look. But I'm not gonna make it go solid end to end. I'm gonna break it up, dash it, and maybe not have it on every one of them. Okay, so now I'll erase the pencil lines. And to clean your kneaded rubber eraser, you're just going to knead it. Stretch it and fold it over itself and keep stretching it, and that will help to get the graphite absorbed by it, or I don't know what it does, but that'll give you a clean surface again. So this is how you clean the kneaded eraser. Just keep on playing with it. So the teal really makes for a good silvery blue. So I'm gonna drag some teal. Let's see if I can get these both in your view. So I've got some grayish kind of, it's brown and it's kind of a grayish color out here. And I'm gonna put a little teal into that grayish color and see what that gives me for a silvery olive leaf color. And I'm leaving some white. I'm not filling in the whole thing. I'm gonna add a little bit more teal to that mixture. And this time I'm gonna stay on the half of the leaf. So you're gonna notice that now I'm gonna add some brown from the lid so I can get a different green. But you're gonna notice that I'm gonna press lightly, then apply more pressure so the brush gets wider. Let's get a little more color on that. So press lightly, then press to make the brush tip wider, then lift and make it thinner. So when you press the brush tip down on the page, the bristles are gonna spread out and make a wider line. I've got some purpley gray over here that's always a good neutral. I'm gonna mix that with a little bit of my green, gold, and this will give me kind of an olive green. Let's do the branch that's back here with that. The leaf. Leaving a little white of the paper. Now we can grab a little manganese blue. And you see that I'm varying my greens. I've got some blues, some teals, some teal grays, some yellow greens. I'm not taking one green out of the tube and doing all of these leaves. I'm taking greens and adding other colors. That's a nice silvery kind of bluish olive leaf color. And then we have one more. So let's grab that grayish color. I'm gonna take the small brush and I'm gonna add a little red to my orange and green mixture so I can get sort of a reddish That'll give me an opportunity to bring in another color in the stems. So I'm going to take that reddish and I'm going to drag it in a few places, not everywhere on the stems. And then I'm going to grab even more red and a little more orange. And now with this color, I'll drag it into another couple places. So now I'm going to go back to the medium brush and I'm going to do the olives. So I'm going to start with magenta, quinacridone magenta, and a decent amount of water. So the ones that I didn't do the magenta in are the two behind. So I'm going to take the magenta and the blue and mix myself a nice dark purple here. Now I'm going to pull that orange into it so it's not super intense dark purple. More like an olivey color, like an olive would be. Not olive green, but like an olive or a dark grape. So the magenta, a little bit of that orange, a little bit of the crud that's on the lid of my box. And I'm going to use that one in here. It needs a little bit more blue. There we go. There we go. Darker, kind of ripe olive color. Then the key is to let things dry and bring in another layer. So while those olives are drying, I'm going to come back with some of my leaf color and drag in a little bit more to make it like stained glass, like putting two pieces of translucent stained glass together and darkening some of the areas now that they're dry. And I'm going to pull in a little bit more of that turquoise blue, maybe on this one. So now we can probably come back to the olives with more of this purpley blue color on the magenta. That's still wet. That was a lot of water, but we'll let it flow together with that. That's the darkest blue I have. I think it's an anthraquinone blue. Right into the magenta on the page and let it blend. So now we're going to paint the outside color. And that's going to be a little bit of fun because I'm going to switch gears on you. And this is saffron threads mixed with water and gum arabic. And this is what we got at the saffron shop from our friend Alessandro so that we could paint with it. So it's been a few days, so it is a little, gonna come out a little kind of brownish orange, but when it dries more like the yellow color that you expect of saffron. So I'm gonna get a bunch of water on my brush and I'm gonna get a saffron mixture and I'm gonna do the background with that. So you can see that it's coming on like a little bit of an orangey, kind of a dark orangey color, and it's got a strong smell of saffron. And so I'm gonna put that on, then I'm gonna get water and just blend water into it to sort of drag it around. So here we're varying the color with the amount of water, more or less water, which is giving you more or less concentration of the saffron mixture. The saffron is just, it was very, very yellow, but it's been about a week when we first used it. But I found that even though it goes on in this sort of brownish color, it dries back to the yellow that you would expect. It's interesting. The color will travel with the water on the paper. So if you lay in water like that, and then you put the saffron into it, it's just gonna bleed into the wet water area. So I'm gonna clean my brush and just come in with water here to blend out and get real light out here. These saffron threads were grown right here in Città della Pieve, and they are harvested by our friend Alessandro, who has the saffron shop. And there are 3 threads of saffron in each crocus, and they have to be plucked out by hand. And there are 3,000 types of crocus, and there is only one that they use for saffron. And it is not wild, it's completely cultivated. So we will wait for this to dry, and then I'll come back in as I do with everything else and maybe add a little bit more line work on top and a border for the page.